Season 2, Episode 2, Pushing the Limits with Neha.
Neha Naguri's in the house.
My favorite guest so far. Sorry to our previous guests.
He took so long as well, Neha. He was getting his haircut, man. I was like, gee, where are you, dude? This guy spends about an hour getting his haircut.
It takes a long time, man. I need it to be shiny so it reflects directly off of the light here.
Did anyone ever told you that you got a great head?
Actually, yes. We have a family friend, and I met them after I shaved my head, after not seeing them for 4 or 5 years, and they're just like, dude, you just have a very nice shape of your skull.
I said it to someone.
I was like, that's the nicest thing I've ever heard.
Dude, you can see I'm like the hairline's just receding a little bit, but if it does, I want that head. He's got the perfect shape hair, but enough about heads.
Neha doesn't have that problem.
Neha didn't turn up all the way to talk about heads.
There are times when I think I should remove it all. It's sometimes uncomfortable. So
your hair's on fleek today, don't you? Like you're shining.
Yeah.
But welcome to Pushing the Limits. We've been wanting to do this with Neha for so long. I know we rescheduled it. I think 6-7 months in the making. But you're here. I think it's the perfect time given everything you've got going on personally, professionally, and just where the market is right now, man. There's so much going on in the region. And who better than 2 CTAs, 2 legends. Yeah. And you just obviously recently got top 20, most influential to follow, which I think is huge. I think
not only MVP, but top 20 influencer.
Exactly. And the first female architect, CTA within the Middle East. And you set up your own business. And you're an ambassador for women in tech. So, I mean, I'm kind of telling everyone about you. But can you give us a little intro to who you are? And for the people that don't know you.
Okay. So this is Neha, of course. I'm from India originally. I was born and brought up over there. I did my engineering in computer science. Techie from the time I started to do computer science itself, and then got into Accenture, worked there for 7.5 years. And then immediately started my own firm, Cloudearly. So I co-founded it with my partner, who is also my husband. And it's a family-run business. And it's a Salesforce partner. And we've been operating in UAE from past 3 years now. We just completed 3 years of being born in UAE.
That's a big achievement,
yeah.
To go from one of the biggest partner in the world when it comes to Salesforce to then being an entrepreneur and starting your own, which I know we can relate to. Yeah. It's not easy, right? The one thing we were talking about just before we started rolling, if you know Salesforce or the Middle East or tech, there's more SIs and partners coming into the region, right? So many are now. I think Salesforce has over 230 or something like that they have signed as logos. What I'm seeing is that body shopping model that seemed to have worked maybe 5-6 years ago. It's still there, and there's a lot more still coming, but it seems to be changing now, and it's becoming a bit more specialized. As a CTA, and obviously for yourself, who's very specialized as well, do you see that as well? Because I feel like body shopping, it brings everything down in the market. Am I wrong? The margins go lower, the resources are lower. What's your interpretation of that?
So when you say body shopping, it has to be done right. You should know what kind of person you need in your project or in your organization. And when you get that person from anybody, a recruiter or a SI partner or any other organization, you should know from where you're getting it at. If you don't think that person would be able to consult better or fill the role and wear multiple hats like how he would wear as part of that organization where he or she is getting into, then it's a big mistake. You should have a plan for the person who's getting in. Sometimes organizations are not able to sponsor someone from visa perspective or maybe have a justification of getting someone on full-time payroll. And that's where body shop comes in. But that doesn't mean you're looking for something cheap. The cheap word should not get associated with body shop,
So there is a difference.
There's a difference.
Because I get the budgets here, there's a misconception that the Middle East, because they may have crazy amounts of money, spend a lot, but it's the opposite. I've seen them spend less here than opposed to the UK, North America, right? Because they look at it like, all right, let's save as much money in certain industries. But the thing that gets me is when it's you go in and put an RFP in or a bid, or you send a great candidate who's specialized, and then they try and sell some dude for $10 an hour, and it's how would you compete with that?
Exactly.
And then even if you provide a good resource, just everyone is cutting you on budget so much that it's if you try and provide quality people and all of your competition is going for the lowest common denominator in terms of pricing,
it drops everyone,
it's
right?
yeah, it's
Exactly.
impossible to compete in that kind of
But then
market.
throwing it out to you now, and you as well, G, given you both are very specialized, and obviously you're you're in an elite group of CTAs. The more complex projects get, the more that these integrations become very harder and larger. At that point, surely you need good people, right?
Exactly. And that's where the body shop term comes into picture, that you need someone from a specialized group of people coming from that particular experience. And I'm sure you might have done that as well as a founder. And that person should not just be kept in, but also feeded in the information in how to tackle that project from the expertise from that partner itself. When the partner itself gets that person into the project and forgets about it and only takes up a minimal margin, that's the cheap shot. But if the partner is constantly involved in whether my resource is performing well, he's or she is right for the role or not, and then also involved in the success of that project, that's where the success of body shop comes in. Not wherein you go for a cheap margin and just forget about putting in people
Yeah.
as a number. They should not be a number. And
Yeah, I think that's really like the difference of like boutiques doing like staff augmentation. It's like if you go to like a TCS or Tech Mahindra or like big company like that, if you get a staff aug resource, it's probably just going to be like a developer that sits there, and you as the client have full responsibility of like managing their workload, you know, helping them with solutioning, etc. But I feel like with boutiques like us, if you staff aug resources from a boutique, then the CTA will be involved and actually understand what is the day to day like, reviewing artifacts. I don't know, helping them when they get stuck, etc. So it's like,
honestly, yes, I've been doing that in the region now. I don't just body shop. I go and get involved with the customer, and they would, if they're seeing, they would know that that's exactly true. I go get involved, suggest what kind of person is what they are looking for, and get the exact same person into the team, which will really help
So
them.
you go deeper, right? You go into more the enterprise business side. And look, body shopping and having resources nearshore, offshore works. I get it. Like QAs, developers, technical people. The bit that I see a huge gap in, and I'm not just saying this as a recruiter, I'm generally seeing it every day, is people like yourselves, is enterprise level architects who can go in and speak the customer language, especially in Saudi. So, Saudi's calling out for it. And then you add on the Arabic speaking, which you can see Salesforce now has a massive push on, right? And you can see the way it's changing even with sales. Sales isn't about, oh, you've been in Salesforce 10 years. It's now about, do you speak the language? And if you can cross over from another technology like Microsoft, Oracle. But it's interesting. And even diversity, man. Like, there's a misconception, I think, because I get a lot of messages. I don't know about you, Neha, but a lot of people talk about what it's like for a female to work in the Middle East. You are obviously the first female CTA in the region, which is a huge achievement. I am seeing more diversity. I am seeing a bigger need for workplaces to now bring in more women in tech. And we are trying to catch up over here as opposed to other regions. What's your experience been like for that? Like as a female CTA in the region, the first, someone who's now a co-founder, how do you drive that yourself?
To answer your question, I'll go back to years when I was starting out as a woman and a lady in tech. I used to be, I got studied from a women only college. My complete engineering degree was done in a place where there was only girls. But I could see that the sense of involvement of girls doing coding at that time. I was possibly one of the 10 people out of thousands doing the coding. So I was out there. I was already techie and everything. When I got into Accenture and corporate world, I would see there's a difference that ladies were not that involved, women were not that involved in the meetings and discussions. And when I was alone in a meeting room, I was not asked for my opinion, very honest. And sometimes I was left out of the discussion as well. I don't know if I was just a woman or just they, God knows what was the reason, but everybody else was there
It was
and I
there
could
from
see it. Yeah. But then it evolved as well. People, it's not like women were not part of that ecosystem. People were. But then people evolved over time. When I started getting into the CTA journey and everything, I could see women from all over the world were also participating in study groups. And when I came here, I could not see that there is some sort of imbalance when it comes to involving a woman into a discussion. I was being asked for my opinion. I was being involved in the meetings. And to be really honest, the customers that I have right now are by word of mouth. The customers have approached me for giving me the business, which is really
That's a
good,
lot.
right?
It shows that they're seeing past that. Because again, it's just a
Yeah.
misconception, man. But I think
Yeah,
I'm seeing a lot of change as well,
exactly.
even
So,
in leadership. And I think Salesforce has always been great for that.
yeah.
I think Salesforce has always been great in terms of D&I and promoting not just women in tech, but just people from different backgrounds, whether it was, ex-war veterans, people with disabilities. Like there's a lot that Salesforce does, and I've seen it firsthand. So it's good that you see that.
I see that. Here, the ecosystem is really supportive. I have not made it to a mother yet, so I don't know what it feels like to be a mother and working inside UAE. But maybe 5 years down the lane, if we do the podcast again, I'll be able to tell you that. Invite me again. So, but yeah, I have seen it quite a good ecosystem for women to work with.
Did you see any? Were there any like foundational experiences that you had at Accenture that like got you into the idea of becoming an entrepreneur, or really like helped you today as you move to being an entrepreneur? Because like in my experience, I switched around multiple jobs, and I feel like that helped me. I'm curious, with you being in one company for a long time, like
Yeah.
how did you build those
So
skills?
Accenture helped me in every way possible that they could when it comes to giving me an experience to run a Salesforce project or to initiate a project on my own, because the kind of or the quality of projects that they have, they gave me everything. And even at the very young age, I was able to start my CTA journey because I've seen it all with multiple industries, multiple tech stacks, everything. But when it comes to entrepreneur, as you asked, like question, right? It comes probably from genes, because I've seen it from my father. He is also an entrepreneur, and just following his footsteps.
It's in the Indian blood, man. It is. I mean, it is because like even with my parents, I saw it, right? Like they just had this thing in them that just wanted to start their own and do it on them. But I think Accenture is a great place to come from.
Exactly.
That balances out earlier.
I apologize. I am Indian, in case you're asking.
Earlier we were talking about this, and you said that cholesterol is one of the downsides, and I guess the entrepreneurial.
Yeah, what's that all about? I got Indian sweets, by the way.
But
yeah, I did a blood test. I don't even eat like that many fried foods, but like, why is my cholesterol high? He's like, it's because you're Indian, man.
The entrepreneurial cancels it out. So
I don't know if many people know that about him. That when we first meet you, like when that's the first impression, we kind of get confused whether he is Indian or not. By name, he is Indian, but maybe he's grown up somewhere else.
And then he answers the phone
the
with
accent.
a thick Manchester accent.
Exactly.
Sometimes it's like, hola, amigo. Sometimes it's just Mexican and Spanish. Yeah, exactly. But you know what? Going from, this is another thing that I get asked a lot. Starting a business in the Middle East is attractive, right? Like anyone around the world, when you look at taxation, just setting something up, which is a lot easier than maybe the UK where I'm from, where the government just seems to make it harder and harder for entrepreneurs to be successful. What was that transition like for you, starting your own? And obviously you had your partner, you had your husband as well, which hopefully made it easier, not worse. But it's not as smooth sailing and just easy as people think. Like you must have gone through so much in that first year.
So setting up the company, as you said, it's easy. That's how we started talking to each other. And then because you just ping someone, you just get a head start, and there are so many options to set up a company. That's the easy part. You just need a small investment. You set up an LLC or anything in the mainland or wherever, you're done. The struggle starts thereafter. Where are my customers? What's my business plan? What do I need to do in order to maintain or be in this ecosystem, right? And this ecosystem has its own challenges. It's a slight different ecosystem than the other parts of the world. If you talk about Australia, USA, this market is slight different, and there's a specific way to deal with it, especially considering the fact that people come from different backgrounds over here. There are Indians, there are Pakistanis, there are Europeans, and
Egyptians,
Lebanese, and you got to deal with different kind of people in a different way.
Did that help you as well, though? Coming from India, where, I know there's like 20 different languages and different cultures in India, but being from there to then come here, it opened you up, right? Was that
Yeah.
a challenge as well though?
Exactly, that was a challenge, and I learned it not the hard way, but it was very slow transition. Is that you always should know how to read the room, what exactly the person is looking for, what is their challenge, and to all the people listening also, and you are better that in doing that. Do not go with problems or challenges in front of your customer. They don't like it here. Go with a solution instead, or come up with a story. Hey, this is what you're facing right now, and this is what you could do.
That's good advice, man.
Because the first time I came here, I'll tell you a story if we have time. Like I went to a customer, they wanted some expertise in architecture and everything. And at that time, I was not focusing on this region. I had some customers back in Europe and USA, and I was not focusing here. But that customer just came in, they wanted help from an architect, and I just went in. And I just did some analysis, and overall, this was a very time crunch thing. And I said that you have these problems. And that person was very senior at the CI level, and he only told me one thing: Neha, I know these problems. Why are you telling me problems? What did you analyze?
I hired you for solutions, not
Exactly.
for reading out my problems.
It's like, yeah, but it takes time, right? So just don't stop at recognizing the problems over here, because everybody knows there are problems, there are bottlenecks, there are challenges. Start with finding what could be a potential solution. That's the second set of struggle. Now, how to solve that? Reading the room. What kind of people are there in the organization? How each could participate in solving that problem. Sometimes
It's true.
it's not just a technical solution to anything. It's just a communicative support that you should do, or introducing one extra person, or removing some person who's not needed, right?
It reminds me of the first project with Velocity we did on Free Mobile, and then one of the managers rings me and he's like, Hemi, one of your architects, man, he's like, just keeps coming with problems. He's not a solution architect, he's a problem architect.
Exactly.
He's like, why is he not doing his job? But then that leads on perfectly to what we were discussing in sales, right? Sales is a huge gap here. So if you're in sales tech, you know, right now, if you speak Arabic, you know the region, and you have sales experience, like you are a dangerous combination in this region. Like you can achieve massive success, especially in Salesforce. You're seeing the strategy that they have right now with all the new AEs and everything they're trying to do in Saudi. Sales was never your background though, right? Like, and I speak about this with a lot of techies who are more introverted. I'm not saying you're an introvert there, but but like, you know, a bit more on the tech side rather than being on the client facing selling solutions. How's that transition been for you?
Yeah, you got it absolutely right here, because once we met at one of the events, I told
The
you.
MuleSoft event.
Yes, so I was just looking at you. I always observe people when I have nothing to talk, and I was observing you. It's like, this guy can go in a room and talk to everybody. I'm not like that. So it's not being an introvert, but a partial introvert, I would say. I could not talk, and then you gave me a challenge, Neha. Today you're gonna go and talk to 5 people. And
she did it as well.
That was something.
Not only 5, but
that is known as commonly getting out of your comfort zone. So I was always comfortable being technical, solving problems, being in projects, delivering them, being a people person when it comes to managing the project and everything. But this was something new for me, and still it is. And I'm learning the hard way that being a technical person and being a delivery person as well, I think I'm the best person to sell my services. Exactly.
I feel like that's the real like key differentiator people like us have, where when you think of a traditional salesperson, it's like the person doesn't really know the content. They're like selling software services, but doesn't actually understand what is architecture, integrations, etc. When we do sales, like, I don't know about you, but I don't think I'm the strongest salesperson, but I'm able to actually really understand the problem, start solutioning it, and propose a solution that makes sense with the customer's problem, what we can actually deliver, not overselling, not underselling,
right.
etc.
But
Exactly.
who better to sell your companies than the actual co-founders and owners? Because your values, like, look, there's different types of sales, right? So BDR, cold calling, literally going out, meeting clients. Maybe you would leave that to someone more like me, who comes from that background and has that hunger and wants to just go out, build relationships. But when it comes to being in front of a client and selling your business proposition and solutions, you are the most gifted and technical. And you don't need to be a hard salesperson at that point, because then you're just being consultative and just getting across how you can actually better their business.
Exactly.
But I feel like give yourself credit. You actually understand the content. Like, you know what velocity is. You know what Salesforce is. I mean, I don't think we can like
I think
give
you
you
know
a
better than any
requirement.
salesperson.
CTAs
Yeah,
say
no,
this.
I've been talking to you, Hemi, lately. We have had our conversations, and you also mentioned overselling, right? And I've seen that people have oversold Salesforce in the past, and that has led to
Failed project.
disaster or failed projects, right? And I'm not gonna blame anybody for here. It's just
Say
that
some names
they,
there.
they,
Come on,
they
give us the
just-
spice.
You
It's
see
an
these-
Indian
It's,
special, man. Give
You
us
see
some
these
milk.
like you see these memes on LinkedIn where it's like, you know, the salesperson sold a quick start project for 2 weeks for 20K, and the technical lead on the call is just like, oh shit, this is a 9-month project that will require a team of 10 people. It's like that is what we
That
mean by
is-
oversales.
exactly.
And it's so easy for
I
that to
once
happen.
met a customer, and I'm not lying, and they in their business, the end users had an understanding that Salesforce could do everything, and that's not true. And I don't know, because I was not part of pre-sales, and how come they got an impression that, I don't know who sold it. Even was it a partner, was it Salesforce, I don't know. Someone somewhere told them Salesforce could do everything, which is not true.
So it's
And
literally,
it's-
literally like they get told, like, we want a CRM, and they go, hey, it can do that, it can do this, it can do that. But then when it comes to the actual implementation and delivery, when it can't do all that and the functions are nothing like what they imagined, you can imagine though, as a customer, how annoyed you would be. You'd be pissed, man. You'd literally be like, I spent millions on
And
this.
even if it just happens like one meeting before, you have a meeting the next day, and then you're contradicting what was told earlier, that still is very frustrating. So if you're like a technical person in sales, then you can set the right expectation up front instead of, you know, the salesperson sets the wrong expectation. You have to fix it. You've already
Right.
like broken some
Yeah.
initial trust with the customer. you
And I
know.
think Salesforce has recognized that. I don't know if it was a problem over there, but Salesforce is moving into a direction, and I see all the hiring posts, and I've read a couple of job descriptions where they're demanding the AEs to know a little bit technical stuff as well.
That's a good point, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
like-
a gap if someone's come
Yeah.
from a technical background and crossed over to sales. There was a guy who did it in the UK called Hamza Habib, like legend in the UK ecosystem. He was a Dreamforce speaker, like
I know him,
MVP.
yeah.
Uh,
It's very
He
nice.
crossed over to
Yeah.
sales from architecture, but what made him amazing was the fact he came from that background. And he always used to tell me, man, he goes, I'm one step ahead because a salesperson is a salesperson. But someone who's got the tech and the sales and can combine the two, I just think this region needs it, man.
He's doing the
Honestly,
justice.
there's such a
Doing
gap
the
in this
justice,
region
yeah.
right now. But like I said, I think you two going in front of a customer, that's where I believe the credibility comes in as well, because you know what you're talking about.
Exactly.
That's why so many projects must have failed now. You said it yourself, right? Come on. Someone's just gone up there and gone, yeah, we'll do it. And it's just
Yeah.
like, boom. Like,
It's not, I'm not talking the story from my customers or clients or anything. I speak to a lot of people. You speak to a lot of people. We both are co-leaders of the Y Architect group, and we were almost meeting people every month till last year, and people were coming with problems like these.
but that's good for you two then, I suppose. I mean, for someone who's growing your business now, I know you were thinking about hiring a salesperson, but now you going and doing it and being in front of the customer, I just think it's a better proposition, man. It's going to separate you as a CTA as well.
We were talking about this earlier. I feel like we talked about the upside, but I feel like the downside is then you can't do your own
The technical stuff.
billable,
work,
deliverable work, or you can, but then you have to like, you know,
So Naveen's
split out
like
your time
200%
50-50
billable.
or whatever.
I even have people reach out from my past companies. They are in partners in Deloitte and places, and they want to work with me still, but they want me billable. And I have to politely take a step back and say, I have this thing going on. Maybe in future, if I become billable, because it's not something that
Explain
balance
billable to people who don't know. So that means that you
Yeah.
are literally on a project,
on a project.
basically making money and revenue for the business.
Yeah.
And if you're not billable,
Yeah.
that means that you're not making revenue for the business. So Naveen, your partner, for example,
Yes.
when I came to your place for dinner, when he was talking about being like 200% billable,
Yeah.
he's basically billable and stretched because he has to be, right?
Yeah.
To feed the revenue into the business, while you are non-billable, focusing on other areas.
And the funny thing about this is sales is ultimately like the end goal is still billable. It's just indirectly billable. You know, you need to do this like sales work that
Exactly.
not directly billed to
So
ultimately get billable
if
hours.
the other people in the organization are getting enough revenue for me to sustain, then I can grow the business. But if I'm billable, feeding in the company, then it just
But will they always
stagnates.
ask for you to though? Because you're CTAs, will you not? Stereotypically in North America and Europe, CTAs would their billables would be through the roof. Like, would a client never ask for you to personally and say, well, I only want Georgi to work on this project. I only want you, Neha, to work on it.
Yeah. So there's one advantage of being a CTA because many of organizations are not able to afford a CTA full time. So they would just get a CTA on the advisory level and
Okay.
hold them billable for max 40%. So that's what I'm trying to do here, being an advisor to CIOs or CXOs and just help them, pave a way for them and be billable for a certain percentage, and rest of the time I could focus on the company as well.
And I think this comes back to like what we were talking about earlier about, body shopping and staff aug, where the difference of what we do is that we support our people behind the scenes, help solution, help review artifacts, etc., so that we're able to scale our expertise and contribution. Instead of being, involved in two projects like 20 hours a week, we can then be involved on,
Multiple.
potentially like 20 projects. Each one
Yeah.
we're spending like a couple hours a week, making sure our people are on track, helping them when they get stuck. But then we're contributing to like 20 projects or however many instead of two projects.
But more
We're
from a
able to, like,
strategic standpoint and escalations.
yeah, and I mean, just keeping things on track, because I don't know about you, but a lot of the billable work I do, a lot of it, like some of it is strategic, but a lot of it is just like kind of grunt work that someone needs to do. It could easily not be me, but just because I'm there, because I have the context, I do it. But I could easily like delegate that
Delegate
piece of
it
it
to
out.
technical
And so
aspect.
this
Yeah.
is the exact idea of like,
And that must be the hardest thing as well, right? As owners of a business, that when someone isn't billable, they're not bringing in that revenue. So then that's an added stress in the back of your mind, because you need to then get them on projects and make sure they are billable. So I can imagine the stress that you go through. In terms of skills now, like, you've seen it firsthand and you've probably got more experience than me on this. A lot of people want to come to this region, but I always try and tell them the truth that
Yeah.
it's not. Salesforce has just opened their, office in Saudi. There's a new GM, data centers, the partnership with AWS, the hiring of AEs, like, they're growing, right? But it's still early days. There's still projects that haven't yet been signed off. There's still tenders that are pending that go on for so long in this region.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to someone looking to get into this region from your perspective?
I think it's a mixed advice. For anybody wanting to get into the region should understand that the work culture here is a bit different.
Explain that. In what way? Be honest. Let's push
pushing
the
the
limits there.
limits.
Let's push the limits. So you remember we were in the Discovered office last year. We had that career fair.
Yeah.
And there was a panel there, and there was a guy who came from Australia.
Awais
And-
Siddiqui.
Yeah, and he was openly telling about how he is seeing a transition so huge that the way the people worked over there, the people don't work here like that. The companies, I don't know, the projects, they don't have a plan, so they're sitting all nighters, extending hours,
Working
weekends.
weekends.
And he could not just digest it, so he wanted to bring a change and everything. And a lot of people are trying to do that here, but when that comes with a little bit of uncertainty with anybody's role out here.
Yep.
Right. So make sure that you are confident enough to bring value wherever you go. If you are able to provide that value wherever you go and you're confident, come to this region.
But it's a tough one here, because if you've come from North America, EMEA,
Yeah.
APAC, and you're used to being treated a certain way as this prestigious architect,
Yeah.
and then you get put on a project here,
Yeah.
I want to say you're a commodity. Like,
That's another
like-
thing. Yeah.
like, but there's a difference in the way they view. All right, it's like a developer, right? A senior Salesforce developer in the UK was gold dust 10 years ago. If you got them, they were valued. Like, really good developers were like treated like, like gods in a way, like idols. They're like, man, this developer is amazing. Here, I just feel it's not that same
So,
viewpoint from customers.
First thing first, yeah. When you're coming here, of course, there's money, yes, but don't expect a lot. Or if you even get that money, then you're lucky, you're in a good role, you're in a good company. But then sometimes people are coming with the mindset of only making money, and that will not work.
But the salaries aren't even
Yeah.
right now. I'm going to release a salary survey, actually. You guys should see it, because it's based on actual data of 2024. But the salaries aren't what people assume when they message me.
Exactly. So the expectations are too high, and when the expectations are not met, it tend to reflect on the work.
But then they're doing more work here then
Yeah.
because of the hours, right?
Yeah.
So then when you weigh up the pros and cons,
That's a different problem. So once we get people who could provide value and do the right thing and take a stand for something right.
so actually objection handling,
Here
push back.
people I've seen, they don't have the tendency to say no. And it should not be at the ground level.
You know why
because
that is,
it's
though?
a developer could not say no, but
But you
people
know
at
why
the
that
higher
is?
ops, I know that
It's the
because of
visa.
yeah, maybe. So if people at that level who are coming here have tendency to say no or put a proper planning or structure to the projects, I think people can have a smooth work life situation over here. It's always a balance, providing a value, not expecting a lot of money, and being in the right place at the right time. And if you can all see that at the place that you're going to get recruited, then only make a decision to come over here. Otherwise, this place is not for you.
It's great
Yeah,
advice.
I feel like that point about not being able to say no is super important, and I think that's why I've seen that things don't go the smoothest, because it's like you get bad requirements. No one wants to say no. You pull all-nighters to do the requirements, but then that kind of messes up how the system should be used. You're super over customizing things, and then you're going against, or ultimately it's going against the interest of the customer. And
So we're going
all
back.
of this is because like no one could say no. So to like emphasize on your point, like be prepared to say no, but don't just say no, we won't do this. We won't do this because it will have this impact,
Exactly.
because it will make
Yes.
things take longer, because it will introduce technical debt.
And
Like
that
have a good justification behind
goes
it.
back to the point where I mentioned, don't just go with problems and
Yeah.
come with a solution.
It's like, yes, I'm
Yeah.
objecting to you, but
Yeah.
I'm ultimately doing this in your interest, because
Yeah.
if we don't do this, instead we do this, these are the benefits.
So there's a
these
yes
are the
person
problems you're-
culture,
Yeah.
and that goes back then to talent, right? So it goes back to bringing in the right
Exactly. I was
people
going to come to
who
that.
have
Yes.
that exposure to those regions.
Yeah.
Like, gee, you came from America, right? You know, America led the way when it came to technology, and it still does in so many ways. I mean, Salesforce is an American product. It started over there. The biggest projects I ever saw took place in the States. If you're bringing people who have got 15, 20 years industry and tech experience to this region, they're the type of caliber that you know you can put in front of a client, and they'll be able to advise and objection handle and actually be able to take on the client in a good way where they can stand up to them. But if you're bringing in the wrong talent and we're going just for cheap, then it's always going to be that problem.
I feel like that the fundamental problem is like, how do you justify the like higher bill rates of a senior resource? Because on paper, if we took like Neha's resume versus like a developer with like 3 years of experience, like ultimately they can produce the same output on paper, deliver X number of user stories per sprint or whatever. But then in reality, I think Neha will have a much bigger impact on the project because of your experience, your ability to like shape the direction of the architecture and stuff. But how do you quantify that experience and those deliverables against like a dollar amount? I feel
That's
like
a good question.
that's the challenging part. And I think in other markets, customers just fundamentally know this. You don't have to justify it because they just understand the difference that you'll get in the output.
I think there's
feel
a
like
level
here-
of people at some level who are running the projects. They don't have a clue of what's going on. They're just wanting to be, they're in a race in their organizations itself, which by saving some cost, X amount of dirhams would get them ahead in that race. And so though they kept doing that from past years in other technologies, and when Salesforce is introduced, they did that, and that didn't work with Salesforce, and that became a disaster. So that level, that layer of people should understand.
Maybe the
that's not
difference is
right.
in like other markets, kind of to your points, people have been doing Salesforce for a long time, have been burned by doing these things, and they understand, okay, I heard from my CIO colleague at this company that they went for the cheap resource and this was the outcome. I
That's
feel
true.
like here, because it's not as mature, you don't have those like war
Depending on the
stories
industry,
to learn
right?
from,
Because real estate, where Oase works, for example, that had Damac implemented Salesforce over 10 years ago, email. So they've been there, done that, and there's a type of culture in each industry. But I just feel like partners have dropped their rates so low that also I feel like customers have got used to it.
Yeah.
So then
that's
when you
true.
come in with a Neha and you say, like, I get it, man, dude. You should see some of the reactions. I'll be like, dude, I got
just
this.
like the sticker shock is like,
I got this
excuse me.
amazing architect, 20 years industry experience in telco, has also delivered for the likes of AT&T, blah, blah, blah. This is their rate. They'll be like, you're just trying to
Did
fluctuate.
I hear you correctly?
You're just trying to fluctuate the salary, and that's not the case. If anything, I'll try and talk candidates down to make them see that you have to go lower to be able to stand out in the market. Otherwise, you blackball yourself. But it's just, I feel like because the rate's gone so down, some of them are doing it for free, bro. Like, how are they making profit? I don't get it. I seriously don't get how they make profit. Someone explain it to me.
I think they're just trying to get into the business somehow, make an entry point, and then just try their luck out. But what happens eventually is that it may turn out to be good, maybe bad. It's not necessarily everything is bad. Everybody's trying to get into this ecosystem,
hope, right?
and
Yeah,
everything.
exactly.
Not everybody is bad. They might get something. They might grow. It's good for them. But are they really here to grow? Are they really here to provide that value
Or
that
just
we
make
are
a bit
trying
of
to
money?
make it happen? From past 1.5 or 2 years, we've been trying to uplift the ecosystem by meeting the architects, and I'm sure the other Trailblazer community groups are doing the same. They're only trying to uplift the ecosystem, and if they have the similar mindset of uplifting the ecosystem and growing along with it, good. If not, they're in here to just make the money. They're not here for a long time.
And that's kind of my point of view on it. It's like, if someone goes in and like lowballs a project, let them do it. Let them get it. Let them fail. Let it fail, and then the customer will eventually need someone to come in and fix it. And then the partners that actually have the skills
will
to do
put the
it
fires
will
out.
eventually fix it.
So they'll actually come in, and so it's just a waiting game. Let them mess up. Let them totally ruin the project, and you come in like a knight in shining armor and just basically say, "This is the way it should have been done."
I feel like just qualifying the customer, qualifying the project is like extra important here compared to other markets.
I was going to ask you both, is that where it comes from, that initial stage? So like anyone who's non-technical, is that where the make or break is for a project? Is it that discovery requirement gathering stage? Because it feels like if things go wrong there, the whole delivery and implementation is wrong and the expectations are wrong. Am I right?
I mean, I don't know about you, but I feel like I've developed this, gut feeling over time where even after the first call with a customer, I kind of have a sense of like, are there enough red flags that this will be a problem? And then usually we just go a different direction after some time anyway. Like just from the first call, you start to feel it. Like
we do actually. We do get a sense of, and also we do a background check with people, talk to them. And if you talk about this particular region, then obviously when some partner or a consultant is starting a project, they would say discovery phase, design phase, and then do the development, right? Now, because that has become a trend, people are just timing those things that you need to do a design phase in 1 month, 2 months, and then start the development. So they're just trying to go through that phase and finish it quickly in order to get to that
just
development phase.
Exercise.
It's not a checkbox. If you figure something out in that discovery phase or design phase, you have to address it and say, hey, no, it's going to take longer than this. It's not just a checkbox, and people here, I don't think they recognize that.
Do you think it's just going to take time to get to catch up to other regions? Are we just a little bit behind? Because some people come here and they say that the work they're doing now is like what they did 10 years ago.
I mean, do you think in the UK, like if we, go back in the past like 15 years or something, was it really any different?
No, that's what I mean. The prematurity of the market. I feel like it's where the UK was 10, 15 years ago. I feel like even with the architects, there wasn't that many, right? Like even as recruiters, we would reach out. There was just a handful of Salesforce architects. I mean, velocity, right? Industries like back then, we had to cross people over from Salesforce into velocity because no one was an out-and-out velocity architect. So I just think it's going to take time, but I do think it's what you always say, right? Early adopters. You're an early adopter of a region that is still growing, and we're yet to see what the future holds in areas like KSA.
Okay, Neha, so tell us about Cloudearly. I just saw on LinkedIn a couple weeks ago that you guys had your 3-year anniversary. So how has the journey been so far? Like, and I was personally curious, like, I think a lot of people have this vision based on influencers and stuff that if you're an entrepreneur, you're just like sitting on the beach at the club, sipping, pina coladas, posting on LinkedIn, watching the dollars show up in your bank account.
Nothing like that.
I must admit that's completely opposite of the truth. Like from your perspective, what was maybe what was like a benefit that you didn't expect of being an entrepreneur, and what was like a downside that you didn't foresee of being an entrepreneur?
Okay, so the way the Cloudearly started was I was an individual freelancer, and it started back in India. And suddenly there was a customer of mine who wanted a team of experts, and I was able to gather that. And that's how I moved from being just a freelancer to an entrepreneur.
So it wasn't planned. It was just kind of like organic.
Organic, yes.
The opportunity came and you seized it.
Yeah. And then when I moved to Dubai, we had our first customer, second customer, and now third. Like, it's all word of mouth. We have never tried to do sales as in sales, pitch anybody, or got something by pitching or taking RFPs and so on. We are starting to do that, but it was a slow journey for us to understand the market better and really look at things at the lower level, at the granular level first. Instead of starting from the top, we started at the bottom. And then we were always told by people to have a specialization, and you should just core cloud everybody's doing, what's your specialization? And then it took us a little bit of time, and then we found the specialization. Our specialization is analytics, Tableau, CRM analytics, right? And that's what we do, and that's what we are focusing on right now. And we are going for a Tableau conference, and Naveen is going to be a speaker over there. And
really?
Yeah.
Where is it?
It's in San Diego in April.
San Diego?
Yeah.
San Diego, Naveen's not actually, you'll probably be billable at the same time.
Yeah.
So I'll be on in 10 minutes. He's like, I'll join the call in literally 20 minutes. I'm just presenting in San Diego. But no,
I think that's going to happen.
But it's so true. Like, is that the biggest thing that you would say as well? Because I always say to any candidate, and I suppose it resonates with partners, specialization is what I believe is what's going to stand out, whether it's industry specialization, CRM, whether it's specific cloud within Salesforce. I just think that's where you're going to be able to carve out a niche, and the salaries that people want and the margins they want to charge will come with specialization, right?
Yeah, and like I said, we started from ground, right? So even apart from the Tableau and analytics expertise, the BI part, we have the CTA advisory services as well, and the core cloud stuff and everything.
Do people get what CTA is here? Like when you go in front of a client, do you have to sell the value of it?
Yeah, at times, yes. They are aware. Salesforce AEs are also now aware. They are pretty much getting us pitching it. Yeah, they do know it.
But to be fair, that's like I would say in most markets, most customers, like I don't know about your experience, most customers don't know what CTA is. Like Salesforce people generally.
There's probably people watching this wondering why would we keep mentioning CTA?
What is
that?
Certified Technical Architect.
That's true even here as well. It's just that you should know how to sell yourself better or anything, which I'm kind of not there yet, but I have got my opportunities with being a title of CTA.
So now you're going out.
Yeah.
Like this year, is it a focus now to not just rely on internal referrals, but now to go out and actually sell that solution
and
that proposition to customers?
Yeah, because now we have seen the challenges on the ground, so we can actually pick them in and present it to the higher odds, saying that this is what you might be facing.
I would just stay close to your competition who are going to mess up projects. Well, I heard.
Red project firefighters.
Well, that's a good point, and that's what makes us stand out. Is I don't see the other partners as my competition, because for me and even for him, it was all about uplifting the ecosystem over here.
Big time.
And we come up with great quality of resources, as well as the mindset of uplifting our business and customers as well. So whatever the other partner is doing is none of my concern and none of my thought process. I don't see them as a competition, because they are already doing well. They're already established over here. We are just starting out, and never see them as my competition. Maybe they're doing great.
It's a good mentality to have. Yeah. I think that's what we share in common, right? There's a commonality that the freeways want to bring quality, because you've seen it in other regions. Yeah. So you know it can either make the market, or if you don't elevate and grow, it's going to break the market and will stay stagnated. And everybody's hoping that Salesforce has an amazing year this year, right? Everyone wants it. Salesforce want it. The ecosystem needs it. We need it. So we're all in that same boat.
Be the best you can be, and don't worry about the competition. You'll get there.
Yeah.
In any case. So coming back to my earlier question, like what was one unexpected con and one unexpected benefit of entrepreneurship?
So I thought I could take n number of holidays, have a lot of money,
Yeah.
but that was really unexpected because, like I said, I started as a freelancer and I was billable up until last year. Most of the time, Naveen is still billable. So we can't balance our vacations, and we go out on all these fancy conferences, dreaming events, and everything. We are just taking a break on the day of the conference, which is mostly on the weekend.
And you're working like in the hotel room before the conference
Exactly,
and
yeah.
after the conference.
And I'm sure you're doing the same. So that's quite unexpected because I thought I was starting as a freelancer. I had my own benefit, took vacations on my own capacity or will. I cannot because I'm not just thinking about one customer or one project or one timeline. I have 5 timelines in front of me that I have to factor in order to plan for a vacation.
Then you got to manage people as
And
well, right?
there's never a slow period. It's like one project always is like, having a go live or
Yeah,
escalation or
exactly.
whatever. It's impossible. And especially when you try and plan a vacation, that's when everything is going to
Yeah.
like hit the fan.
You
Like
But then
never-
mentally,
go lives at once.
does it take its toll? Like
No.
mentally, does it drain you?
No, actually, because I like doing it. It doesn't drain me mentally. So there are two things, right? When you are mentally drained or you're tired, right? You take a break for a day or two or a weekend, and then you are fresh
Yeah.
the next day, and
You
are,
hope so.
Yeah. The next kind of draining is when you're doing something regularly and it just doesn't move a needle.
Yes.
That's the kind of drain that you should look at. And if you don't like it, then you should
Make a change.
probably change
Yeah.
what you're doing. So I've been able to move the needle a little bit in those 3 years. So it's all fun.
But you're seeing the progress, and it seems like you love what you do as well, right? Like
Yeah.
the freedom, the fact that you have started it with your partner, which I think is amazing, man. Like the
Yeah.
fact you can make it work shows couples out there. Because there's this big thing on Insta as well about couples who hustle together, stay together, and I believe it, man. I believe that.
Yeah.
Like if I look at my mum and dad, like my dad always said to my mum, like, you need to work with me so we can start the company and basically provide, right? And 4 hands are better than 2. So
Yeah.
the fact that there's a sacrifice between you both at certain points shows that
Yeah.
it can work, man.
I never told you the story about our wedding, right? It was just planned less than a month ago. We got married for like 1-day event.
In Vegas.
And
Shotgun wedding.
I wish. And then we just came to Dubai just 2 days after because I had my CTA exam a month after that.
So you had no honeymoon.
So no honeymoon. And we had our honeymoon after a few months, but
This is
not
what this is
immediately,
what
yeah.
I want people to hear out of this though. The day and age we live in. You tell me with the new generation of like, especially dating in Dubai, like what person, whether male or female, I'm not putting it on any sex, but what person would wait and go, oh yeah, like, we'll do our honeymoon in a few months. It has to be booked. You have to know where you're going. The money needs to be spent. But the fact that you both have that understanding, man, that's couple goals right there, man. That's couple goals.
It never came out like, hey, now what should we do? We have to go for a honeymoon. Nothing like that. When we were settled, we were like, yeah, let's go for a break. Even on that, we worked a little bit, yes, I admit. But we loved it. We had our times wherein, hey, I have a call at this time. So would you mind? No, go.
Then
But
Naveen must have supported you a lot through the CTA journey as well.
He's my biggest cheerleader. After my parents, he's my biggest cheerleader.
We need to put a picture of him up, man. I know. With his young
With
looking
the
self.
heart.
Billable right now, just.
Yeah. And vice versa. I'm his too. And we were really, he worked really hard for what he does. And from past couple of months, he was trying to become an instructor in Data Cloud domain. So
Okay.
he would teach people how to become a certified Data Cloud
Which is
candidate.
super needed.
Oh,
And
I saw he
it's a-
just got his like certified instructor
And
status.
We were
Congrats.
literally jumping that day. I was so happy because he worked so hard for it. It's a tough one. And I was so proud. I was so happy. And even if I've achieved nothing, maybe in this year just started out, we don't have a business plan. That day, we both were very happy.
But your love
That's
story
a-
is actually, I don't want to say it because it's personal. I know you told me, but
Yeah.
your love story is something out of a Bollywood film, man. Like, it has to be on a Netflix documentary if Salesforce ever do a feature, but it is a very special journey that you both went through. Like, it wasn't easy.
we can try and do like an AI generated like Bollywood dance with Neha. We'll try and edit or put it up.
If you ever come up with a different theme podcast sometime, then we would both come and then we would share. And
love an idea.
But then when you told me it that night, I don't know if it was the whiskey Naveen was pouring, but it was like I got home and I was just like, what a great story, man. Like seriously, you don't hear like, again, we live in Dubai. You know, anyone who's dating in Dubai will know it's very transactional. It's very like nowadays, it's not that surface.
I've heard your stories. Yeah.
That we'll save for next episode.
Oh, man.
Where's my gift? That one.
We'll do the salary survey and then Hemi's love stories. Next episode.
On that note, there, I think it's a perfect moment to take us out. Closing
no.
message.
Hold up.
Oh.
We missed one of the key topics. So first MVP in the region.
Crap, how did I miss that?
Tell us about MVP. What is it? Like, you know, how did you contribute things to get to the point of being MVP someday? And like, what are some perks?
So when I came into this region, I met a lot of people, and then we both started this group, Dubai Architect Group, with Madan, and we were doing the events one after the other. And I realized I was also running an online group called Asaima for architects and working on my company, working on the CTA journey, all things together. But working with the community kept me going with all the struggles and with all the things, because sometimes you just don't give, you also get. Right? Because I got a lot of help from you. Thank you in my CTA journey. And like him, there are so many others. That's a long list. So that kept me going and complete that journey. And when I finished that, I said, no, I want to give back as well. And I did help a few people. I went to a Dreamin' event. I remember a lady came up to me and she remembered and she watched my YouTube video. And there was another YouTube video with Johan, and they kept telling me that really impacted me, your story and the way you explain the data model. And that's really helpful, and it helped me my journey. Sometime back, I did the video on a scheduler, Salesforce scheduler, and it helped somebody in their projects. And they came to me personally and thanked me. That was so impactful.
Like people from different parts of the world, like you go into an event, getting recognized.
Yeah. Oh. And that really was something that kept me going. And that's the reason I think I became an MVP. And
you're an ambassador now, though. I don't know if you know it, but from someone who's now knows you and sees the impact you have, and UG as well, but it's not about you today, it's about Neha. You have a massive impact on this region, man, and we need more Nehas, and hopefully this inspires someone from around the world who's thinking about the Middle East and maybe even just being an entrepreneur and taking that step. And like, thank you for what you contribute.
Thank you.
Keep doing what you're doing. Keep motivating, keep inspiring, and keep being the leader that you are, because I think it's just naturally who you are, man. The moves you make inspire. It's not about you being the loudest in the room. I think just what you do, people are watching, right?
Yeah.
And you keep being our most valuable person in the ecosystem.
Thank you.
And even though you are the first female CTA in the Middle East, I think one thing that would be great for you to see is someone who follows in your footsteps and joins you on that mantle and gives you company. But in terms of closing message, what would you like to share now? It can be anything. Like, it can be anything. It can be about Salesforce. It can be about technology. What's the biggest thing that you would want to give someone watching right now in terms of advice?
I always say that be very consistent in what you do. Just never give up and keep that momentum going on. You may not succeed in the first go, second go, because we have been growing slowly, and slow is good for me. I'm okay with that, but I want to grow right. So I'm going to take one step at a time and grow with it. And you can do that as well. Just be consistent and never give up.
Journey of 1,000 miles starts with a single step, right?
Yeah.
And a step every day.
It's a great message, man, where everyone's trying to get rich quick and just scale and grow a business to the point where they see it fail. You're saying the opposite. Like, look, let it take time. It's cool.
Yeah.
I'm enjoying this journey right now. Like, I've got years ahead of me to get to that point, right? But man, inspiring, man. Honestly, it's been an amazing episode now. Thank you for giving up your Sunday. Where can people find you? Like, if they want to reach out, I know you get 1,000 messages, but when's the next event? Is there anything coming up in your diary?
I'm very active on LinkedIn. So anybody who wants to reach out can reach out to me on my LinkedIn. And the next event is one of the events in Dubai Architect Group. We are going to get a very special person to talk about their
Can we say who it is? No.
surprise. Yeah.
Surprise.
Yeah.
Wait for it.
We
Wait
look
for it
forward
to
to that
drop.
one. So if you're in Dubai, when's
Yeah.
that taking place?
March.
March.
Yeah.
So literally like in
Yeah.
March, April, and then World Tour is coming up in May. as
Yeah.
well.
It's a big lineup.
3
man.
months,
Big
yeah.
lineup. And Cloudearly, if people want to follow it, we'll
Yeah.
put the link up there.
Yeah.
You know, support obviously
Yeah.
Stratus as well, TSI. And on that note, Neha, enjoy the Indian sweets. Gee, you're gonna
Thank
dance.
you.
To some,
Close out.
you're gonna
Ready
dance
to
to
eat
some
that.
Bhangra music. You know he loves Bhangra, by the way. Okay,
Oh.
I saw him one day patting the dog in Buffalo Wings and Rings, and he was screwing the light bulb.
Let's-
He said
let's-
his best artist was Punjabi MC.
Whoa.
No, my favorite artist is Honey Singh, man.
That's because someone
Really?
told you. No, this is a.
No, like-
this is a. No, I don't even want to tell this story, man. The guy's in the shop downstairs. Every time I walk in, just to get a drink of water, they go, "Yo, Honey Singer."
Oh, and you know, actually, I'm his biggest fan. I think I'm a big fan of him, and I just hope someday I get to meet him because he's also based in Dubai now.
Is he?
Yeah, he's based in Dubai, and
Dude, you should
I don't
you
know,
should
he's
like
not
try and
watching
meet
this,
him
but-
and then get a picture with him.
No, I need
I feel like if you ever like want to get out of recruiting, you could be like a stunt double for Honey
yeah.
Singh.
And if you ever
Think
meet
about
him,
it.
tell him that Neha really wants to meet you. She's your biggest cheerleader.
But I'm not even exaggerating this, man. I was out like a few months ago, and then some dude ran behind me. He's like,
I'm not surprised.
He's like, Honey Sing.
I'm not surprised.
And a part of me just wanted to carry on with it and just be like, yo, bro.
Yeah. I'm not surprised, but I
It depends
I
which
so
version
wish-
of him, though, right? Like the old Honey Sing, the new Honey Sing. I mean, the old guy was smooth. The new guy's good as well, but
You
Yeah.
saw his latest concert. He was flying.
was he?
Yeah.
No, but Honey Sing's a legend.
I'm
man.
so
Who's your
impressed
favorite
with
artist?
Yeah.
Is
Honey
he
Singh
your favorite?
in rapper
More than
format.
Diljit?
How they both are different genres. In the rapping genre, it's Honey Singh. Always Honey Singh.
He's a RG Singh fan.
I'm
Massive
a
RG
I'm a
Singh.
Punjabi MC.
Really?
Arijit Singh, he cries a lot, but yeah, he's good.
The same
All
with
right, with that note, let's close out, guys.
Peace. Take it easy.